Hello everyone, my name is Andrés Merlo, a student at Universidad Internacional del Ecuador. We're going to review cost management according to the PMBOK. First of all, the project management scope. It's really important to define a scope for a project. Where are we heading? Where is the bullseye that we are aiming for? For this, first of all, scope for cost in project management is defining or planning, estimating how much we're going to spend in a determined project. For this, we will have to make a plan, estimate the cost, determine which our cost is going to be, and control the expenses. First, plan cost management process that establishes the policies, procedures, and documentation for planning, managing, and expending and controlling project costs. For planning the cost, we're going to use inputs, tools, and techniques to process those inputs, and we're going to obtain an output. An example of inputs could be the project management plan, the project chapter, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. For tools and techniques, expert judgment, analytical techniques, meetings, and for outputs, cost management plan. We're going to review every one of those items further along in the presentation. For plan cost management, we have project management plan, like I mentioned already, which is based on the scope. Develop a plan that will get us to our scope, to where we're heading. Schedule baseline, we're going to have to develop a plan to determine every activity that is going to be developed during the project and how much are we going to expend in every one of those activities. The project chapter is the process that determines what is our project, what are the objectives, and that is going to help us have an idea of what are the basic needs of the project and which are the most important, so the money could be spent more wisely. Enterprise environmental factors is where the company is heading or where the project is developed or the country where it's developed, the market, because the market conditions could affect our project. It's not the same starting a small business trying to compete against a large brand such as Coca-Cola than starting a new business where there is no competition. And the organizational process assets is what tools our company has in order to manage costs. For example, financial cost procedures, historical information, and lessons learned of other projects. We can use other projects as examples for what we are going to do, what we did poorly or we had a poor performance in history of the company, and what can we do better. Financial database of the company, and existing formal and informal cost estimating and budgeting related policies and procedures and guidelines from the company. The plan cost management tools and techniques, expert judgment, analytical techniques using funding and resource, and meetings. These are three really important tools because expert judgment is going to help us gather the experts from the company and probably do brainstorming or just have meetings where they can discuss how to spend the money wisely. And analytical techniques is how are we going to get the money and what are our resources going to be. Funding could be a stakeholder, or it could be a bank. We can have a lease from a bank, and we're going to have to define which is going to be our source of money. And the plan cost management outputs is going to be the cost management plan, which is going to be probably a Gantt chart where we can have like I mentioned before, every activity and how are we going to spend every cent in every activity, in the whole project. Estimate cost. This is really important, but for big projects, it could be a whole segment, just the estimation of the cost, and in small projects, it could be the estimate and the next phase that we're going to see further along, the determination, which is going to be the determination of the cost. They could both come as just one big step. For this, we have the process of developing an approximation. It determines the amount of cost required for the project to be done. It's basically determining the cost, but on a bigger scale. The inputs are going to be cost management plan, human resource management plan, scope baseline, project schedule, risk register, enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets, the tools and techniques, expert judgment, analog estimating, parametric estimating, bottoms-up estimating, 3-point estimating, reserve analysis, cost of quality, project management software, vendor bid analysis, group decision making and techniques, and the outputs: activity cost estimates, basis if estimates of estimates, project document updates. This part, like I mentioned before, is going to be really important because we're going to have an idea of how much the project is going to cost. We measure every spender that we're going to have, for example, human resource, and we're going to see how much human resource we're going to need and how much we're going to spend in that resource. For the estimate cost, we're going to have the inputs, like I already mentioned, cost management plan that came as an output from the previous segment of cost management, project schedule as well. We develop how much and along the timeline of the project are we going to spend. The human resource, where we determine who are we going to hire, probably workers, if it's a construction site, architects, engineers, and how much of those resources and how much are we going to spend in that resource. Scope baseline, where are we heading, once again. Our inputs, and other inputs are the risk register, what risks could be presented during the project development and how are we going to survive those risks. Enterprise environmental factors, like I mentioned before, what's our market conditions, published commercial information, organizational process assets, cost estimating policies, cost estimating templates, historic information from the company, and lessons learned. Estimate cost tools and techniques. The expert judgment is basically the same thing that we saw previously. All the experts from the company gather up and they develop the estimation. Analog estimating, parametric estimating, bottoms-up estimating, and 3-point estimating. These are techniques, analytical techniques, that will help us identify or calculate how much we're going to spend in the project. Parametric estimating uses a statistical relationship between relevant historical data and other variables. We use the background of the company to calculate how much we're going to spend. Bottoms-up estimating is a method of estimating component of work, the cost of individual work packages. We basically see how much we're going to spend in every object or every equipment that we're going to purchase, and we go scaling up, adding all the expenditures and analyzing how much the global expenditure is going to be. An estimate tools and techniques are going to be the reserve analysis, cost of quality, project management software. For example, Excel is a really good tool for doing this. It has forecast techniques where you can input all the data that you need and it calculates how much or what is the trend of the expenditure. Vendor bid analysis and group decision making. For estimate cost outputs, we're going to have activity cost estimates, basis of estimates, project document updates. The basis of estimates is basically the documentation of the basis of the estimates, documentation of all assumptions made. We have to determine based on which scenery we made our decisions. And all of that has to be documented. Documentation of any known constraints, indication of the range of possible estimates, and indication of the confidence level of the final estimate. How much do we trust the estimate that we are creating or developing? Then determining the budget. This is the part where we take the estimation that we did before and put it now in real numbers, how much exactly we are going to expend. We have our inputs, our tools and techniques, and the outputs as well. Determining the budget inputs, we have the cost management plan, scope baseline, activity cost estimate, basis of estimate, and project schedule. For the scope baseline, we have the project scope statement, work breakdown structure, and WBS dictionary. The work breakdown structure and the dictionary is basically all the activities that are done in the project and breaking down to small steps that we will have to follow in order to complete the project. We use this as an input because, like I mentioned before, we see how much we're spending in every activity to calculate the whole budget. Other inputs: resource calendars, risk register, agreements, organizational process assets. Like we can see, these inputs are similar to the inputs that we had in the estimation, because in small projects, this is why in small projects we can combine both and make just one big step instead of two. The tools and techniques: cost aggregation, reserve analysis, expert judgment, historical relationships, and funding limit recognition. We have to identify what's our limit going to be in order to respect that limit and not spend too much in the project. Historical relationships we use to identify what are our relationships with buyers or with suppliers in order to see how is our relationship going to help us during the project. Control cost is basically where we are going to see how is our project evolving and if what we planned is actually being executed. We have as well our inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. For the inputs, project management plan, the plan that we develop at the beginning, we're going to use to see if every step is being completed as planned. Project funding requirements, we have to see if the funding requirements are being satisfied. Work, performance data, and organizational process assets. In control cost outputs, we're going to have work performance information, cost forecasting, change request, project management plan updates, project document updates, organizational process assets updates. Thank you very much.